It's canning season. I'll admit canning has never been my favorite chore, but there's something deeply fulfilling about it. Taking the produce that we grew with our own hands and turning it into jars of shelf-stable food for the pantry is one of the most rewarding parts of homesteading. Every jar is a small reminder of all the hard work and love that we've poured into this land. I haven't bought tomato-based condiments from the grocery store in years. Tomatoes are one of the easiest and safest foods to can. I make gallons and gallons of marinara sauce, barbecue sauce, ketchup, salsa, tomato juice, and diced tomatoes for our family to enjoy all through the year. Today I plan to can up a couple gallons of barbecue sauce, preserve a bunch of basil, put some raspberries in the freezer, and Cody has something special that he harvested yesterday that he's going to show you guys too. I started out my morning this morning picking the raspberries. This has been pretty slow canning season because the produce is just kind of trickling in because it's been so cool. The weather is absolutely beautiful. It's like sunny and 70s. It's perfect weather, but unfortunately for like the raspberries and tomatoes and peppers, it's just like slowed everything way down. One nice thing about this cool weather is that I haven't been having any issues with wormy raspberries. So I've only been having to pick these like every other day because even if they're overripe, they don't get wormy. So I don't have to pick them quite as often, but I'm also not getting as many. These raspberries are probably like the most low maintenance plant on my property. I don't usually do anything with these guys, but I have been having to water them because it's been so dry here. This is 2 quarts of raspberries. This is much less than I normally get. I normally will get like a 5-quart bowl if I pick every other day, but it's all good. I already have a ton of jam preserved and I'm gonna do some more today. And we definitely have enough raspberries, and we still might have enough to be able to give some away to our friends. I emptied my drying racks yesterday of all the herbs and stuff that I've been gathering. And so it's completely empty. I wanted it that way for all of this beautiful basil. I've been using up a ton of oregano and basil in my marinara sauce that I've been canning up. And so I really need to refresh my cupboard. Growing, harvesting, and drying herbs is honestly my very favorite thing on the homestead. There's something about them that I just love so much. And my herbs this year did better than they ever have before. So hopefully I can show you guys my cupboard full of dried herbs when we go inside. It's just so much fun. This purple basil has done absolutely amazing this year, and it's stunning. The only difference that I notice is that it has a little bit more of like a licorice smell. It's like slightly reminiscent to like a black licorice smell. It smells so good, but like I don't really notice a big difference when I season my foods with it. Like I don't notice a huge flavor difference. I've just actually been mixing them. I just crush them like together and just mix them. So it's like a green and purple seasoning blend that looks really cool. I have so many green tomatoes hanging on my plants. I mean, they're just hanging in massive quantities, but it just isn't hot enough for them to be ripening at a very fast rate. And so I'm just like hoping that I'll at least get hopefully a couple more bushels of tomatoes before the weather cools off for real, because I would really like to can these up. I don't want all these green tomatoes to go to waste. And I know that you can make like salsa verde and all kinds of things like that with green tomatoes, but I would definitely prefer them to be red. They're slowly oranging up. Most years by this time in September, this table would just be solid full of tomatoes, and all the tomatoes are still green and hanging out on my plants. So I'm just really hoping I get enough to at least finish my own sauces. I promised some friends all of my extra tomatoes, and now they're just not ripening. So it's all good.
You're probably not gonna see a lot of me in today's video, so I'm gonna pop in and show you what we got in our latest Thrive order. Thrive Market is sponsoring today's video. They are our go-to for getting snacks and stuff that we can't grow here in our homestead. And we love Thrive because we can get healthier options for cheaper than we can get a lot of places, and also we are able to find a lot of healthier options that we can't find in our local grocery store. Something that we're especially loving right now is with our daughters and Michelle's food sensitivities, we can look for things that are like gluten-free, and it's really easy to search for it on their website. These gluten-free cinnamon churro strips are are so good. And it feels good to eat something that just has like a few very basic ingredients in it. We got some other gluten-free snacks for our daughter when she can't have some of the things that our other kids are having. Michelle really likes that Simple Mills brand of gluten-free stuff because a lot of their stuff does not have any seed oils in it, and that's something that we're really on the lookout for. Got some Kind bars. Those are also make a really good snack. Michelle also really likes these Mama Chia squeeze packs. One of my favorite Lara bars is the almond butter chocolate chip ones. I cannot find these many places, so I was really happy to find these on Thrive. We also get some of our basics from Thrive, like this 7th generation dishwasher detergent, and I believe this is avocado oil. The avocado oil that Michelle uses in things like mayonnaise and dressings, we can get for a really good price on Thrive Market. One of our absolute favorite things to get from Thrive Market is these dates. Something so simple, but so tasty. These are the best dates we've ever gotten anywhere. Not everything in here is sweet. We also got some beef sticks. These Mission Meats beef sticks are some of our favorites. They have a really good texture, really good taste. Thrive Market is an online membership-based grocery store, and they have a new offer for new members right now. If you sign up right now, you get $20 off, not just your first order, but your first 3 orders, plus you get a free gift. If you use the link in our description, thrivemarket.com/morethanfarmers60. And now is the perfect time to get started with Thrive. They're having a 25% off healthy reset sale. So make sure you get to that before it's over on September the 20th.
I have canned a ton of jam already this year and put a bunch in the freezer. Plus I still have some left over from last year because raspberries is always something that we have way too much of. So I am just going to be popping these in a freezer bag today. We use these in smoothies, some baking here and there. So I just put them in these gallon Ziploc bags. And I like to do like a nice thin layer so that they can easily break apart. I don't have to like flash freeze them first. I do not wash my raspberries. I get a ton of questions on how do you wash your raspberries without them going to mush? You don't. Raspberries are crazy fragile. And so if I was to wash these before I put them in here, they would just be one giant mush mess. For me, it does not gross me out at all to have unwashed raspberries. These raspberries have 0 sprays. They're not buggy. They're not dirty at all. They're up on a trellis. And so they're just sitting in the sunshine all day long. We don't have birds over top of our raspberries. And so to me, these are perfectly clean. It's obviously gonna be a personal decision, but that's how I handle it. These are the herbs that I dried this year. I'm so proud of them. This was so much fun for me. I kind of have them in categories here. First of all, back here, I have calendula that is already in olive oil, and I'm gonna be using this for soap making. And then I also have these 2 jars of chamomile in olive oil that I also wanna use for like some chapsticks and maybe some tallow balm, and then also soap making. I just think it will be really fun to experiment. I feel like avocado oil doesn't have as much of a scent as the olive oil, but my recipes all call for olive. So hopefully the herbs will like shine through the smell of the olive oil. These here are all of my like seasoning herbs that I actually use in cooking. I found another quart of basil. This is still left over from last year, so I need to get this used up. And then this is dill seed. I use this to make like pickles and fermented carrots and things like that. This is thyme. I use a ton of thyme. I should definitely be harvesting more of this because I will definitely be needing more thyme than that this year. This is parsley, and you can see this has a beautiful green color, but parsley is very fragile. And I found that when I keep my herbs down in the basement, there are like LED lights down there and the kids like to play down there. The parsley fades really fast. And so that's telling me that it's losing nutrition and properties being in the light. And so this year I am storing all of my herbs in this cupboard where I can close the doors and it's nice and dark so that they don't lose any color. This is rosemary. I don't tend to use a ton of rosemary, so this actually will be enough for me for the year. I have tons and tons of sage, but I don't end up using it a ton because we're not really sausage people, and I feel like sage works best in sausage dishes and stuff. So I don't use a ton of this, but when I do, it is so tasty. The rest of these are my teas. In my opinion, this is happiness right here. This year my chamomile did exceptionally well. I got 2 full quarts of the chamomile. I used some of this for the infused oil. I don't know how to like tell you how many piles of chamomile flowers this was, like before they were dried. When they dry, they shrink a lot. This was a ton of chamomile. And then I have red raspberry leaf tea. That will definitely last us for the winter. I also have calendula flowers. I don't use these a ton in teas. I use these more like for salves and stuff, but you can make tea with these. And then I also have a lot of echinacea flowers. Super, super happy with these. I love these for flu season. And they actually taste really good in tea. I've really been enjoying the flavor. I didn't harvest a ton of the leaves. What I really want to do is harvest the echinacea root next year to make tinctures and stuff, but I think it's a little bit too soon to harvest the root, so I'm leaving it another year yet. And then of course I have some chocolate mint here, stinging nettle, and then apple mint. And we've already gone through quite a bit of apple mint, so hopefully we'll have enough of this for the winter because I planted a whole new patch of it this year. When it comes to drying herbs, I do not have a fancy system at all. I don't use a dehydrator, I don't use a freeze dryer, nothing like that. I just lay them out on these window screens in a nice thin layer like this. You don't want to do it too thick or they'll get moldy before they dry out. And Cody made this awesome drying rack. Very, very simple. It's just like a little frame. And I stick these screens right in there, and after 2 to 3 weeks, I crunch these up in the blender and put them into glass jars. The one thing that I will say is you need to have the proper environment for this to work. So our basement has a dehumidifier in it, and that really helps to just keep things nice and dry. So if you have like a damp, humid climate and your home is gonna be damp, it's not gonna work very well to dry your herbs this way. I just really like this because there's no heat involved, no expensive tools, it's just simplicity. It is high time to get started canning this barbecue sauce. It's later in the day than I normally start my sauce making, but that's okay. We were filming, so that just took a lot of time. These tomatoes were frozen and now they are thawed, and so I'm just running them through the strainer and then also a sieve just to make sure that I'm not losing any pulp at all. And then I run it through the blender and put it through my food mill. And that will give me a nice thick sauce right off the bat. I do not get rid of all of my tomato water until I'm completely done making the sauce. Sometimes the sauce is a bit thicker than I need it to be, and so I will add back in some of that water. Whenever I mention that I take the water off of my tomatoes, I strain the water off, there's always a couple things that people will say. One of them is that taking the water off will lower the acidity. I have looked that up. I have done this for years, and I have friends that I trust who have done this for years. It does not lower the acidity enough to do any harm, but do your own research. That's totally up to you guys with what you decide to do with this. It saves me hours of time. Another thing people say is, why throw out all of those minerals? If you don't want to throw out the tomato water, you don't have to. You can freeze it into ice cube trays and put it into soups and stews. Or some people actually say they can up all of the tomato water. If I used all of that tomato water in all of my soups and stews and stuff, I would never use my tomato juice that I actually use. So for me, it's something I just don't worry about. This tomato sauce is gonna be way higher in nutrients than anything you're gonna get from the store. My mom always taught me to run the skins and the seeds through the blender before I put it through the food mill. Some people completely skip the blender phase and just go to the food mill. You can totally do that. But she always said that it makes a nicer, thicker sauce if you blend the seeds and the skins, because some of those will be incorporated into the sauce, whereas if you put it through the food mill, those will all be strained out. The amount of water that comes out of your tomatoes is absolutely going to depend on the variety that you grow. If you're not growing like Roma or paste tomatoes, you're going to have a lot of water, and it's just going to take a lot more tomatoes to actually make any amount of a nice thick sauce. For a gallon of frozen tomatoes, I normally get about half a gallon of sauce. Check out this beautiful sauce. It's this beautiful thick consistency and not a stitch of cooking has been done. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna heat this up, and then once all of the foam stops, which is just a few minutes, I'll start adding in all the seasonings. This sauce is gonna have a lot of other liquids added into it, so I'm not gonna be adding any tomato water to this. This is about exactly 2 gallons, so I'm just gonna leave this be. To make this garlic peeling easier, I'm going to put these into a bowl and shake it. Cody's gonna hate this, but this is what I do. The skins just like come off way easier this way. This is my least favorite part of sauce making, is the onions and garlic peeling. I'm gonna add these garlic pieces into these onions once they're a little bit more caramelized, because these will burn if they're in there the entire time that the onions are in there. I'm just going to saute the onions and garlic up, and then I'm gonna put it in the blender with a little bit of this juice to make so that it's nice and saucy. I don't actually want onion chunks in my barbecue sauce. I want a nice, smooth, thick sauce. This stuff still has foam on the top, so I like to let it boil until the foam is all gone. Garlic is going in. These are big chunks of garlic, but it doesn't matter because they're just gonna get blended up in a blender. This sauce is now at a rolling boil and it has stopped foaming. All the foam has kind of condensed on the sides. So I am ready to start adding in my seasonings and letting those simmer and just letting that flavor infuse into the tomatoes. I have all of my dry seasonings already prepped out in here. I have sugar, salt, black pepper, chili powder, and smoked paprika in here. I'm just gonna dump this whole thing in. This is like my favorite part ever. Dump and stuff into that sauce. Next is apple cider vinegar. I always find it a little bit hard to water down that thick sauce, but this is just what it takes. Sauces like this barbecue sauce are really, really good for beginning canners because you almost can't go wrong. They're very, very acidic. With the tomatoes plus the vinegar, it makes for a very acidic sauce, so it's very safe to can. You can water bath it for just a short amount of time and it's shelf stable. So if you want to start somewhere, tomato products are a really cool place to start. I'm going in with 4 cups of molasses. Hopefully this pot will be big enough. I think it will be. This liquid smoke is absolutely divine. All that it is hickory smoke that's condensed down into a liquid. So there's no like artificial flavors, colors, anything like that. This is just like the pure smoke. I feel like it makes this barbecue sauce. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to put coconut aminos into this sauce, and I'm going to make like a cornstarch slurry with this so that I don't have to add any water to water down my sauce. I'm gonna do 2 cups of this. This just adds like a really deep, rich, salty flavor to the barbecue sauce. I don't feel like it can be replaced. I don't feel like you can skip this and have the sauce turn out the same. It's basically like a substitute for soy sauce. I have 12 tablespoons of cornstarch on the recipe, but honestly, when it comes to sauces like this, there's so many variables. And so you're just gonna have to adjust it to how thick you like it. And you also have to remember that the sauce is going to be thicker once it's cold. I like to use non-GMO cornstarch for canning. Cornstarch is one of those things that's not recommended to use in canning. I've done it for years with no issues. But if you would prefer to use a different thickener, you absolutely can. You may just have to adjust the amount of thickener that you put in. When I am adding a cornstarch slurry to a hot sauce, I whisk like this and do a thin stream right in the whisk so that there's no lumps. And because I know I'm gonna get asked, you technically don't have to thicken this with a cornstarch or any thickener like that. You could just like add tomato paste or just have a way thicker sauce when you start, but it will take a lot more tomatoes. And I also just really like to have a little bit of cornstarch in there so that the barbecue sauce doesn't soak into your bread. I think it's disgusting to have like a soggy bun when you're putting a hamburger on a bun. I just think that's gross.
I'm gonna try something new here. Yesterday, I went out and checked my bees. I was only able to go through one of the hives really, and then I kind of went through a couple of the others to look. It got a little too late, it was getting dark, but I wanted to for sure check the one that I thought might have some honey ready. I'm still learning how to read what's really going on in a beehive, but from what I could tell, it looks like they were doing pretty good. This frame here was really weird. There was like part of this attached in front of it, and then it was the same way with the one next to it. So I decided I'm gonna take this one. It's almost full. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna put it in this cloth, and I got this press thing here. It's mainly meant to be a cider press, and I got it this year in hopes that we would have enough apples to make our own cider. But if you've been watching for very long, you'll know that that did not work out so well. Our apple trees did not bear like we hoped they would. But the other reason that I wanted this was to press honey out. I'm gonna put this under the back end just to lift it up a little bit so it hopefully more pours out rather than just pooling on top of here.
Wow.
Got it down pretty tight. I think I'll just kind of let this go while Michelle continues with the canning. She needs to get the barbecue sauce into jars while the sauce is still hot. So I think I'll just come over here every once in a while, give it another little squeeze, just let this keep draining.
I have switched over fully to Superb lids. I absolutely love these things. I never thought, I'm a very loyal person, and I never thought that I would say I like something better than Ball, because I used Ball for years. But these Superb lids, they just seal every time. I kid you not, I have not had a single jar this year that did not seal. I used to have like often at least one lid that didn't seal with almost every canning stint that I did. And my mom used to tell me, oh, that's very normal to have like one jar that doesn't seal. With Superb, they all seal, like never fail. And the pop is so loud. They just feel like the workhorse of jar lids. Also, over the winter, I did not have a single Superb lid that unsealed down on my canning shelves. I don't know if any of you guys follow Sarah Thrush over on TikTok. She also uses Superb and absolutely loves it. She cans thousands of jars per year and she swears by these lids. Every single year, I'm having to buy more jars, and I used to just grab the ones at Walmart in the big packs because it was simple and easy. But this year, Superb sent us their new jars. They're really strong, like you can feel that they're good, strong glass, and they also don't have any like printing on them. So it's just like a beautiful showcase for the food that's inside. Plus you can put labels on these, you can mark them however you want. Canning is a hot topic on the internet, one that I honestly prefer to steer clear of most of the time. Don't get me wrong, I think home canning foods is an incredibly important skill to have, but I don't love how it's most often approached on the internet. And just for the record, before I say anything else, I don't consider myself a rebel canner. I don't do open kettle canning, oven canning, or other methods that are generally considered a bit sketchy, so don't come for me. If I was to give my best advice on home canning foods, it would be this. Learn to can from a real-life person who can talk you through the process in a gentle and non-fear-inducing way. I didn't even know that people were scared of home canned foods until we started a YouTube channel and an Instagram account. I've been eating home canned food for 35 years and never once felt afraid of it. Many people who are new to preserving food at home go to government websites for all of their info, and there's no shame in that. I realize that I'm very fortunate to have grown up in a home where growing and preserving food was the norm. I learned all the safety things like don't water bath canned foods that aren't acidic. If a lid isn't sealed tightly when you pull it off the shelf, don't eat it. I learned what foods are generally considered unsafe to can. I learned about botulism, about safely canning soups and meats. But even knowing all of these things, I was never afraid. Government websites teach you many of these same things, but not in nearly as gentle of a way. They add all sorts of risks and warnings and disclaimers and often go above and beyond what's actually necessary for safe canning simply because they have to cover their backsides. And I get that. But I get hundreds of messages from terrified people who can't bring themselves to feed their home canned food to their families because home canning has been presented to them as something crazy dangerous. Mothers are made to feel as though they have to choose between putting their kids in danger or continuing to eat grocery store food. And if those were truly the options, I'd choose my children's safety every time as well. But that's not the truth. Always remember, it's not in the best interests of large corporations for you to be growing and preserving your own food. That's money out of their pockets. The fact that the internet has people more afraid of eating their own food than the food in grocery stores that's laced with known chemicals proven to cause various diseases is very telling in my opinion. All that to say, who you learn to can from is in my opinion very important because it's going to shape your mindset around canning. For myself, I choose to steer completely clear of the internet for canning advice. I prefer to talk to real life people like my mom with years of experience under their belts. This keeps me confident and fearless in my approach to home preservation.
Canner's still going. I think I've got about all the honey out of this comb that I'm gonna get. So I'm going to put it in jars and get this cleaned up. That's so pretty. Almost half a gallon of honey, and this stuff is gorgeous. I'm really happy with that amount. I feel like this thing really did squeeze it real good, a lot better than I do by hand. And 23 pints of barbecue sauce. It is late again. It's been a long day, but really happy for what we've got to put in our pantry now. We went into a lot more detail about how Michelle makes different of her tomato sauces in this video right here, so you can click this one to watch it next.
Making farting noises. Come on, fill the jar.
It's squished so hard.